Now we're live. Hello, Facebook, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Again, we're here today, me and my beautiful wife, Akoso Castleberry, to give you guys another preview of the For the Hustler book series, notably, the upcoming For the Hustler Volume 3, How to Negotiate and Get More Than You Asked For. My name's Trevor Castleberry, CEO of Castleberry Consulting, where we teach engineers how to think like entrepreneurs. And again, this is my beautiful wife.
Akoso Castleberry. Hey everyone, my name is Akoso Castleberry. I am the founding CEO of Akoso, the #1 publishing firm, and I'm excited today. This is day 3, so yeah, you can jump right in, babe.
Okay, cool. And for those who haven't been here, we're going over each quote for the upcoming For the Hustler Volume 3 to help give you guys some daily tips on negotiating and persuasion. So today's quote is, what is an agreement, right? And my favorite definition for an agreement comes from Cornell Law School. And their definition is a manifestation of mutual assent by two or more persons to one another. It's a meeting of the minds in a common intention made through offer and acceptance. Also, an agreement can be shown from words, conduct, and in some cases, even silence. So,
wow.
Yeah, nice, lengthy and accurate description. So we can break it down. Did you have anything you wanted to say before I did?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I was going to think about, like, what do I have to say about an agreement? Is there such thing as a bad agreement?
Yeah, absolutely. A bad deal. Absolutely.
A bad deal. Okay.
Yeah, you can agree to offer your services for 99 cents. That's a bad agreement. And in case you never heard, no agreement or no deal is always a better option than taking a bad deal. But yeah, so breaking down this definition like we've been doing the last 3 days, a manifestation of mutual assent. What does that really mean? That means you are really trying to think of a way for you and the other party to essentially level up or do better, whether that's more productivity, more profits, more manpower, more options, more exposure, whatever it is, you're trying to progress with the other party, right? So a manifestation of mutual assent really means for it to be an agreement, it really should be pushing you and the other person forward. So like when I agreed to start doing these lives with my wife, I knew that I'd be getting someone to speak to, so it wasn't as awkward going live every day, and she'd be getting more exposure for her YouTube page and to push her publishing business, right?
Right.
So boom, one. Manifestation of mutual assent. The next piece, by two or more persons to one another. Meaning, yes, there needs to be at least two people there. Okay. There needs to be at least two people there. And they need to both agree with one another. You can't just say this is the deal and the other person just go with it. You both have to actually verbally or obviously agree to the deal. Next, it's a meeting of the minds in a common intention, right? So both of you guys both parties should be coming up with the details for the deal or the agreement rather. So if me and you come to an agreement, that means I came up with some details and you came up with some details. If I came up with all the details and you just said yes, we may have come to an agreement, but it's a better agreement if we both came up with the details, right? Or at least as a good negotiator, I should be putting you in a position where you feel like you contributed to the agreement. Otherwise, it's just a sell, right? If I say, here's the details, take it or leave it, and you take it, it's almost like I sold it to you as opposed to me and you really coming to an agreement.
Okay.
And my favorite piece there is made through offer and acceptance. Just to remind everyone, someone needs to make an offer and someone needs to accept the offer at the end. So even while the two of you are coming up with all the details, in the end, someone needs to be given the official offer and someone else given the official acceptance of the offer. If you could just turn your volume down a little bit, it's just feedback.
Yeah.
And lastly, an agreement can be shown from words, conduct, and in some cases, even silence, right? So we're talking about through words. Obviously, that's you and the other party writing or speaking to one another. Conduct, that may be, you two coming together with a handshake or a hug or some sort of embrace. And then lastly, in silence, this obviously wouldn't be a business deal, but maybe it's something where you slide a piece of paper across the table with the details. The other person slides it back to you to confirm that they agree, and then you both nod your head yes, right? So
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal. There are many different ways to come to an agreement legally.
Okay.
And that's the breakdown of the Cornell Law School definition of an agreement. Any questions or responses?
Yes. All right. So you said an agreement doesn't have to be verbal. So
No, it doesn't have to be.
what is an example of a nonverbal agreement?
Non-verbal agreement. Well, I say it doesn't. It can be in silence. So again,
In
let's say,
silence. Okay.
you know, I typically think of business deals, but if we're not talking about business and we're just talking about a random agreement in life, maybe it's when think when our daughter was a baby, she wake up in the middle of the night crying in her crib, and me and you may turn over and look at each other at nighttime. We don't have to say, "Can you get her?" Right? We can just give each other a look with the eyes, like, or a tilt of the head, and then you look at me and say,
Okay.
and you might look at me and say, and start motioning to go do it. We came to an agreement without necessarily having to say it, especially if we are trying our best not to wake her up, right?
Right.
So that's an example.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. I do have another question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's why I like this definition, because I think it's so accurate.
Okay. All right. So, will you ever write a different style, a different book style, like a different Amakosua book type?
As opposed to the motivational quote book. I mean, I do love the motivational quote book. I was I did help come up with it.
Yes,
But
you did. I'm gonna tell the backstory in a minute after you answer the question.
when it comes to writing a memoir, I don't know. I'm kind of able to tell my own stories using the motivational quote book. So it has a memoir component to it, if you will.
Yeah.
And then the product book, I don't, as it stands, I don't have a product that I feel that, I need a book to explain how to use it right now. Oh, the only products I offer are really services, and to understand how to benefit you, you'd have to, either book a call or watch my content, as opposed to reading one of my books, right? The book will give you backstory and give me some credibility, but it won't necessarily, tell you how to use my offers.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, the reason why I asked that question, I'm talking to you guys now, but I had to get out the habit of focusing on like the book concepts as opposed to the outcomes. But that's going to be a follow-up question. But anyways, so the Amakoso Motivational Quote book consists of 50 quotes and 50 passages explaining each quote, which is the book concept for the For the Hustler series, and it's also the book concept for my Dear Nice Girl series. Now, I have two other book types that I would obviously love for Trevor to write, but he is a really big fan of the Amakoso Motivational Quote book just because of the format and the style. It's like easy to, create and like follow through with, to see the end result. But yeah, I came up with the Amakoso Motivational Quote book from the Dear Nice Girl letters. I was writing letters on Instagram every single day, and I write letters because of Lucille Clifton, one of my favorite poets and writers. I was writing letters on IG, and even Trevor was like, "Oh, I like this letter. You should do this. You should do that." So eventually, Trevor was like, "All right, so how many letters do you have right now?" And at that point, I had like 12. And he was like, all right, I think you should add, I think you should make 50 in total and like make a collection and then do a little passage or reflection on them. And then when it was time for Trevor to write his book, he was like, you know what? I think I want to do the whole quotes too. Like I want to do my own quotes and I want to have my passages to go along with them. And that's how the For the Hustler book series came about. And he started making his own quotes, and like now we have 2 books going on 3, almost 150 quotes and 150 passages.
For sure. And I think my favorite part about it is most people, I feel, when they read the motivational quote book and like get to see the quality of it, you know, from the visual aspect and the editing and the tone of the writing and just the format. Um, it puts people in a position where they say, I can do this I can do one of these too to benefit my own, you know, brand. And I think that's my favorite part, because like when you get a textbook, like in college or high school, you don't look at it and say, I want to, or I think I can make one of these, right? Like a textbook look like it takes 50 people to come together and make it.
Right.
But the motivational quote book, you can still teach 50 lessons minimum, right?
Yeah.
You know, just the quotes themselves can teach lessons, let alone how many you could teach with the passages and the layout of the book. But it's just an easy concept. Like as long as you have 50, you know, pieces of advice to give, you know, to a specific audience, you're in a position to write a motivational quote book. If you got 50 stories to tell, you can write a motivational quote book. You know, if you got even if it was 50 lessons that you learned from somebody else, you can put together a motivational quote book. And the reason I like the title is because the term, you know, motivates is like you're not just motivating somebody to like believe you or believe in themselves, but to literally take an action. And once you figure out what action you want people to take, now you can really, you know, bang out the book and put it out.
Absolutely. That was perfectly said. That was perfectly said. All right. So this one is my last question. This one is kind of like very different. But you're an engineer, Trevor. You're an electrical engineer, and entrepreneurship is pretty different. Obviously, you use your engineering skills with entrepreneurship, but like it's very, you know, 2 different kind of careers or industries. So can you just tell us like what made you get into consultant, you know, as someone who was on the or is on the engineering track?
That's perfect. Number one, part of it is just understanding like engineers are just known for being able to soak up a lot of information in a little bit of time, right? And I was told this from my first internship with like STV Inc. by multiple managers there. And they were telling me how they had lost 3 electrical engineers from the department because they went 2 went to law school and 1 went to med school. And they started talking about how law schools and med schools at the time, this was 2011, were actually recruiting engineering students. That way they had, you know, more students to enroll.
Wow.
And the reason they chose engineering students is because they knew, one, those students, for med school, one, those students took the science classes necessary to compete. But also for law school, is these students understand how to do their own research and figure out what's true and you know, test procedures. And specifically, if you were looking for a lawyer to, you know, be in like construction law or liability law or patent law, you want to have a lawyer who understands, you know, the actual patent or understands the actual construction site that you're trying to figure out who's liable for what.
Right.
And because engineers obviously worked in those places and are able to soak up the most information efficiently and quickly, they just became perfect people, right?
Wow.
So knowing that from the age of 19, I just always felt like, okay, Trevor, that's your thing, is you just soak up information. So you need to be reading and listening as much as possible. And even my mentor, Courtney Bennett, when I was in high school, used to tell people, That's my mentee Trevor. And just so you know, watch what you say because he soaks up information like a sponge. Like that was his line. So I say all that to say most engineers fall into that boat where either you can soak up information really fast or you know how to do research really efficiently to figure out what's the truth and what resources are reliable. And in doing that, those skills, those analytical skills are what a lot of people in business are actually missing. Right. So a lot of people in business can't crunch their own numbers. They're not able to extrapolate without the help of a consultant or an accountant or a competitor. Right. But engineer literally can crunch those numbers, can extrapolate not only, in terms of production and manpower, but can also do it, from a profit side of things. And myself, from being a much more effective communicator, I can even do it
Yeah.
from a partnership and negotiation and team management and team building perspective. Um, so I think as an engineer, when you walk into a room with that confidence, and if you're an engineer watching this, you know the confidence you walk in the room with. Like even if you may not have confidence as a social person, you have confidence thinking you're the smartest person when you walk in the room to some degree. You can use that same confidence when you walk into business because a lot of those people, when you walk into that business room, don't have those analytical skills that you have. They have an analytical person on their staff. At that point, it's just up to you to go find somebody to help you build those non-analytical skills, which will be, your communication skills, your ability to actually, be more assertive, not just when you communicate, but when you are making moves for your business. So, when you raise your prices, some people will say, if I raise my prices, will people keep buying versus
Right.
just raising them and seeing what happens? And as an engineer or a scientist to some degree, you're used to changing things and seeing what happens. That way you can collect the data and then make a final choice. And those are the things you're going to have to do in business.
And
Pivot,
entrepreneur,
pivot, pivot.
yes,
Right. You're going to have to pivot
yes.
everywhere. And engineers, I feel, are most capable of doing that.
Wow. Okay, so I said that was my last question, but I have a follow-up.
Yeah, I know I
All
was
right.
long-winded.
No, that was really good. But what can engineers learn from entrepreneurs?
The number one thing I think is the confidence in their communication skills. Because and as an engineer, I only took one class that actually had to do with communication, and it wasn't until I got to University of Akron, it was a public speaking class. At the same time, I was taking a persuasive writing class, and my first tough assignment really was in the persuasive writing class. I understood what the assignments were. We're going to be writing, 5-page papers to try and persuade the reader one way or the other. In the public speaking class, I realized we were pretty much going to be, doing the same thing, but up in front of an audience speaking as opposed to writing.
Right.
So I figured I can just take my papers and use them for the speeches and just cater them a little bit, so I can speak them out in a different manner than writing. And the first thing I had to do was actually convince both professors to give me permission to do that. Otherwise, I would have gotten in trouble for plagiarism because you're not allowed to use the same paper for multiple classes.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's right.
so going to University of Akron, my first year there, that was like my first assignment of having to actually learn how to communicate to two different people the same message that were totally different. We're talking about the persuasive writing professor was like a 60-year-old man, and the public speaking professor was like a grad student who was a woman.
Wow.
So I have to bring the same offer to two totally different people and present it totally differently. And obviously, I was able to do that mainly because as an engineer, I knew I would get a lot more work done if I could just use the same paper for two classes every time.
Yes, maximize that.
I was able to get that done. So I think the communication skills are most important, especially because a lot of engineers, we're just trained to crunch numbers and research and collect data and analyze data, but we're not taught how to present and explain that data to somebody who knows nothing of what we're talking about. So like my senior exit project, I did it was like some sort of frequency kit where pretty much you could play audio into a little speaker, and based on what sound waves were coming out, it would light up different color LEDs, right? So any song you played or audio you played, the different LEDs will light up based on the frequency. And we all have to be in the hallway of the engineering building presenting to everybody that walks by, faculty, students, and just local Akron residents. And I had a good time doing it. I even wore a shirt that would make people approach me. The shirt said, "Wake up smarter, sleep with an engineer."
I remember that.
That shirt literally attracted, I want to say, 5 different faculty members who I didn't even know how high up they were. We're talking 2 women that were in charge of the social work department, 3 faculty in charge of the mechanical engineering department, things like that. And they really came up to me to talk about the shirt. And then they realized, oh, is this your project too? And I was able to just, explain the whole thing to them and actually make it a good experience. But I did get to see other people who I felt had much more impressive projects, who weren't able to explain what the project did or what the experiment did. They were just able to show. So they were like pointing at stuff while they're talking, not really making eye contact. And if this was somebody who wanted to invest in a business or join your team, they likely would have been less likely to do so because those people were such bad presenters. We've even seen it on like Shark Tank. Those guys that go up there and they're so good with numbers and have this brilliant creation, but don't get a deal just because no one likes them and they don't like the way that the people speak. So yes. You have to be an effective communicator, even if it's not, authentic, where you're just building, great friendly relationships. You still need to be able to explain what's going on and get people who aren't as detailed or analytical as you to understand what you've done and what you're giving them.
Yes. Thank you for that. That was good.
Of course, being an effective communicator and an engineer has its perks.
Indeed it does, and we can see that with you. I love engineers. I have to just say that I love engineers. I worked for an engineering firm for a year, and engineers are literally some of the smartest people on the planet. And also really cool, especially young engineers. Shout out to you guys. I love young engineers. No shade to the older ones. But yeah, engineers are just really, really amazing people. Really amazing people. And my brother's an engineer as well, so yeah, y'all lit. All right, Dave. That's it. Right.
So thank everybody for joining us. Again, my name is Trevor Castleberry, CEO of Castleberry Consulting, where I teach engineers how to think like entrepreneurs. I'm also the author of the For the Hustler book series, which you can get for free at hustlerbooks.com. And I'm here with my beautiful wife,
Akosua Castleberry. I am the CEO of Akosua, the #1 publishing firm, and I'm also a 3-time author of Back to Kukran to Me, Dear Nice Girl, and Why Every Pregnant Woman Should Write a Book, which you can get access to for free at amakosua.com.
Yes, and anyone watching this, if you're interested in more negotiation expertise, you can join our free partnership negotiation clinic for entrepreneurs looking to expand their businesses. And if you're an employee looking to move up to an upper management position, you can join our free management negotiation clinic, where we teach you, 1, how to negotiate your wage, your salary, your compensation package, as well as persuade your team members to take action. So yeah, I'll see you guys at the negotiation clinic and at hustlerbooks.com. Peace.
Peace.